Okay, so this is hello. This is all about giving some feedback on an individual after biomechanically analyzing some of their performance. Um, we are especially looking into the effects of height and jump mat scores on the success rate of either a jump shot or a rebound. These relationships are analysed using notational analysis to find correlations between variables. We've used the performance indicators success or failure of a jump shot or a rebound when under pressure by a defender and when not. Success of a jump shot consists of being a legitimate jump shot where the ball falls through the basket and failure being a miss of the basket. Success on the rebound consisted of the individual who caught the ball first from the rebound, and a fail consisted of coming second to your opponent in catching the rebound. So if we look at our data here, it's the data for a jump shot when not under pressure. And as you can see in the graph, Jade, who scored the average overall of 3 shots successfully when not under pressure. However, she scored below average on height. And this is interesting because Ben, who scored well above average on height at 190 centimeters, scored below average on successful shots when not under pressure, only 2. So from this we could infer that those with scores that are below average for height correlate with above average successful shots when not under pressure. Lucia, Liv and Kay all scored low on their height scores, but all scored average or above on successful shots, whereas Ben, Adam and Joe, who scored high on their height scores, all scored low in successful unforced jump shots, suggesting a correlation between these two variables. Okay, so now if we looking at the notational analysis of the scatter graph of a jump shot when not under pressure. If we add up all the scores and divide by the number of participants, it will give us the average successful shot score, which was 3. And if we split the participants into tall and small groups by putting those under 175 centimeters in the small group and those above 175 centimeters in the tall group, averages for the small group came out to be 2.6 and averages for the tall group turned out to be 3.2. This suggests on average taller people score more jump shots, but with the use of easily interpreted graph that we used in the last slide, we can see that an individual of 162 centimeters tall scored 3 successful shots, which is the average score. Another with a height of 163 centimeters scored 4 successful shots, which is above average, and a third member of the small group also scoring the overall representative average of 3. This tells us 3 of our 5 in the small group scored average or above. Now if you compare this to the tall group, only 2 made it above average, which suggests smaller people are more likely to get average scores or above. This is interesting, however, as the average inclusive of the tall group is only 3.2, which is actually higher than that of the small group, 2.6. We can infer, due to the graph, that this average may not be appropriately representative of all the scores, as 3 out of 5 in the tall group scored 2, which is below the overall average of all the heights. We can suggest the tall group average was skewed due to 2 very high scores in the tall group. We can therefore conclude taller individuals may be more likely to score higher scores, but small individuals are more consistent in gaining the average score above. Jade, however, who scored an average for successful jump shots, 3, can conclude that her technique is adequate enough to be able to gain an average score, suggesting to improve her score, she should maybe focus on other affecting variables, for example her jump height score, which was measured using the jump mat test, which in Jade's case was lower and could be improved at 44 centimeters. Now if we look at the data here, this is for when the individual was under pressure. As you can see from the graph, for 4 shots, the successful shots, vary from the first condition, the overall average of successful shots when under pressure was 2.3. So if we round this down to 2 for now, this is already lower than the overall average when not under pressure, suggesting participants struggled a lot more with this condition. However, Jade, with a height of 163 centimeters, along with one other in the small group, managed to get an average score above, whereas all the others, 3 others in the small group, failed to make a single successful shot in this condition. Sam, a member of the tall group at 190 centimeters, and 2 others of the tall group all scored 1 or more above the overall average in this condition. Now, if we look at this data and using notational analysis. Now, if we use our notational analysis of that scatter graph, we can see 3 individuals in the small group all failed to make a single successful shot in this condition. We can suggest being shorter than the defender may put you at a disadvantage when trying to do a jump shot over your opponent. Sam, who is at a height of 190 centimeters, and 2 others of the tall group all scored 1 or more above the overall average. We can infer that those over the height of 178 centimeters had the tendency to score more jump shots when under pressure. This is because all individuals taller than 178 centimeters scored the overall average or more compared to the smaller group, where only 2 individuals managed to reach the average or above. As our individual Jade scored the average on the pressured and the non-pressured condition, we concluded as we cannot improve her height score, I recommend improving your jump mat score to improve successful jump shots to make up for lack of height in jump height. Okay, so now if we look at the jump mat data here, we can see, we know that from the scores, Adam, who scored high on the jump mat test, 61 centimeters, scored lower on his height at 178 centimeters than O'Shea, who scored low on jump mat test, 46 centimeters, but scored a tall height of 185 centimeters. Adam and O'Shea, however, scored an equal amount of successful shots at 3. The fact that O'Shea was taller but Adam could jump higher made no difference in their scores. This suggests in isolation, height nor jump mat score have a significant effect on successful shots. However, there was a condition where Sam, scoring very high on height, 190 centimeters, scored also very high on his jump mat score, 56 centimeters. He then also scored the most shots when in the unforced condition at 6, and second most in the forced condition at 4. This implies a mixture of both high jump mat score and high height score results in the highest number of successful shots for a jump shot. Okay, so now we've got the graphs here for a rebound, and if we look at this data, we can see Sam had 12 centimeters over Adam in height and beat him to every rebound, or nearly every rebound, at 7, even though Adam had beaten Sam by 5 centimeters in the jump mat test. This is backed up by the fact that Joe Widows and Joe Chit had very similar jump mat scores, yet Joe W had an extra 7 centimeters in height and beat him to 8 rebounds. So now if we analyse the rebound scores, in the rebound condition those who were taller tended to get better scores. We can see Sam had 12 centimeters over Adam and beat him to 7 rebounds, even though Adam had beaten Sam by 5 centimeters in the jump mat test. We can infer that Sam's height gave him the edge as his jump mat score was lower than Adam's. However, it did not affect his rebound score. This is supported by the fact that Joe W and Joe C had very similar jump mat scores, yet Joe W had an extra 7 centimeters in height and beat him to 8 rebounds. The trend here is maintained as it suggests that the extra height Joe possesses is far more significant than his jump mat score, as Joe and Joe's jump mat score were almost equal. So in this case, we can suggest Jade can improve her successful jump shot score by improving her rebound technique rather than her jump mat score. This is because we can infer that jump mat score was not as significant as height, which Jade also scored low on, but cannot be improved. So improving her technique in the rebound should result in an increase in her rebound score. In the next model, we will look closer at Jade's technique to give recommendations on how to improve this and therefore her successful jump shot score. Okay, the technical model. The technical model looks at the following aspects, including literature comparison, an in-depth description of how to perform a skill at a specific phase, usually 3 phases included in this. It also includes a perfect model comparison to give a representation of minor inaccuracies visible in a visual comparison to a model. Usually goes through each phase and shows what your technique should be looking like in each one. However, the use of the perfect model provides a visual comparison which may be not identified in the literature review. The 3 phases consist of preparation, execution and the follow-through stage. Problems can occur in this model, for example, the camera angle. If the camera angle for either the performer or professional is slightly off, it can cause a perspective error where angles appear different. This can occur when the camera is positioned in certain positions, which could lead to inaccuracies applying these angles. Okay, so if we use the literature comparison of the prep phase of a jump shot, literature-based description of the prep phase of a jump shot states that you should place feet shoulder width apart, toes pointing straight ahead and knees bent. As we can see, Jade has successfully completed these points. She's kept her knees bent and her toes are pointed forward. However, knees could be slightly wider apart to provide a little bit more balance. The literature description also says to place non-shooting hand on the side of the ball and the shooting hand at the back of the ball with the elbows tucked in. Jade's technique is, in terms of this step, is not so good, as hands at either side of the ball causing both her elbows to stick out. Jade is holding the ball at chest height, which is, however, the correct technique. If we look at now the literature comparison in the execution phase of the jump shot, the literature review states that you must extend the legs and ankles by jumping straight up. We can see Jade has straightened her legs and ankles, but has not jumped straight up, but is angled towards the net. Whilst in flight, the individual should extend their back, their shoulders and elbows. This is almost completed successfully by Jade, however elbows could be further extended. Okay, now if we look at the literature comparison for the follow-through stage, in the last phase you should flex the wrist and fingers forwards and release the ball at the highest point. Here we can see Jade has released the ball at the highest point, but her wrist is not flexed and her fingers don't point forward. After the release, fingers should be pointed at the target with the palm facing down. Legs should also remain completely straight whilst in the air. Here, Jade's technique isn't too good as legs do not remain straight and her fingers do not flex and point towards the target. Now if we compare the two using a perfect model now, we can see compared to our perfect model, Jade has successfully managed to bend her knees and keep her eyes on the target, just like we see in our perfect model. In the prep phase of the jump shot, we can see some minor adjustments that could be made to Jade's technique. For example, the professional athlete here has his left hand supporting the side of the ball and his right hand placed towards the back of the ball. In doing this, it brings the pro's elbow in and below the ball at a 90-degree angle.